I'm Gauri, and I'm speaking on the potential of physiological birth to build empathy. I'll put my glasses on. So today I want to talk about the profound impact that physiological birth has, not only on mothers and babies, but on our entire society, and the way how we birth can either prime us for empathy and connection, or sadly create disconnection, dependence, and even cruelty as we search for this connection. So I'm going to go back to my own personal story. And by the time I re-entered medical school, I had already left medical school once, 7 years prior, because I was very disappointed by the Cartesian approach, very one-sided, I think we know what I mean, to healing. And I was searching more for a very definitive root cause. So I didn't realize that I was on the search to find a root cause of disease. And in the search, I dropped out of medicine after my first year, and I joined an ashram, and I practiced meditation and studying Vedic philosophy, and I practiced for 7 years basically as a monastic nun. And very well aware, I went back to medicine after 7 years, very aware that there was going to be a duality and it was not going to be easy. But I was prepared for this, and I was not prepared for what turned my path even more like that when I had my first child during third year medicine. And being more natural minded, I chose to have an independent midwife and a home birth. And what happened during that birth was what was profoundly transformative. What I felt was a connection with such a deep power of feminine nature, Mother Earth energy flooding through me as if I was a vessel that needed to get out the way. And I needed to allow the potency and the power of this energy that was not coming from me to birth my baby. And I had the most beautiful birth. It was painful and all of that. But I left feeling that this was the most incredible passageway and initiation for women to start their parenting, for couple to start their parenting journey. And yeah, so I was overwhelmed. What I felt is this is an amazing opportunity that every woman gets when she's birthing her child. What a perfect initiation. And I also became a student of my midwife at the time, who was Marianne Littlejohn, and she was studying further into infant mental health. So I was getting a lot of insight from her about the neuropsychology and the developments that are happening during gestation from, just a few months old that are imprinting what the baby is experiencing as normal. Our nervous stress set point is set in utero, and birth matters because of this primal imprinting and this opportunity that is very rare and very specific for what we'd call the first 1,000 days, which starts from gestation to 2 years old. And this specific time, we learn from the Association of Perinatal Psychology, from all the big authors in the area who've done so much research proving that these pathways are set in this time. So I felt very good with that information. And I understood that this is the way we feel about the world, and the way we relate to the world is actually imprinted during this time of pregnancy, birth, and the first few years of life. So, yeah. Okay, so I was very excited to go back into my obstetric rotations and to do this in life and get into the clinical system. I don't know if anyone's worked in the hospitals in South Africa, but I very quickly became devastatingly disappointed because what I witnessed was the opposite. And I witnessed that at this time, I was rotating through the MOUs, the low-risk clinics, and the hospitals, being trained and role modeled. And some of the things I was role modeled were abuse, threatening words, panic and haste at birth, shouting, telling the mom she is killing her baby, she is not pushing properly, shut up, you let CPAW put it in you, I'm quoting exactly, you let CPAW put it in you now, you must push the baby out, to a 16-year-old girl. Another baby hung upside down and smacked for another teen mother. I watched a consultant scream at a Somalian woman and then blame her for her baby being in the nursery. He was known to be racist and awful to overweight women also. He ensured each cesarean section was done under general anesthetic, which required the baby to go to the nursery for at least 4 hours after delivery because the mother could not hold her because she was too anesthetized and sedated. So I was very activated, and I made lists, and I made reports, and I took down people's names, and I did whatever I could, and nothing happened. I knew that what happened at this time, however, had a very lasting effect on a person and a mother. And as soon as I completed my 6 years of medical training and then my 3 years of hospital training, medical school, then hospital training, as soon as I left that, I shadowed with my midwife. I had then also had my second son, and he was born also at home, this time in water and into my own arms. And he came with me to these births also, with my midwife, the home births. So most people did diplomas after they finished this kind of course of training. And I looked at the obstetrics diploma and I looked at these opportunities, but I thought this is not going to teach me what I need to know to really help women have this experience of birth. And so I did a Sula course, which is soul integration course, and it was a 3-week intensive where we delved very deeply into our own processes and our own perceptions and our own soul relationship and all of that deep work so that I could support women to connect with their baby in utero, because I felt that this would be one of the best things I could do to help mothers and babies have better relationships and have positive experiences. The second one's nutrition. And so since then, I've attended home births in South Africa and rural India. I live in both. And I witness again and again by watching the women now, I was relearning. I say that I shadowed my midwife and I unschooled my obstetric training. To be able to witness physiological birth, you have to not interfere. And that's very difficult because we want to fix and do and not have someone in pain and hurry. But in that time, I witnessed the Ferguson reflex, which is the natural pushing reflex when the baby emerges naturally, the baby rotating and birthing itself without needing your hands there. I watched perineum stretch and self-led pushing by mothers prevent tears. I learned to watch women. This was the most amazing. I learned to really watch and understand a woman's body during labor and birth and learn how to monitor and observe progress without intervening. It doesn't mean you never intervene. When you have intervention with a pure necessity, it's a different story, and I like that story. But I learned to read a woman's body during birth and labor, and there's patterns and there's similarities. And just like my talk, we sometimes have to learn to wait, and something might come up because birth is a very divine and mystical experience that you also don't have necessary control. You don't have control over as much as you might try and cultivate the post-perfect birth. But I learned that how women birth really matters and how we can be more kind. And I understood the biology of the hormones from Dr. Sarah Buckley and Michelle O'Dar. And I went further into the work by Kirsten Uvnes-Moberg, how oxytocin is the hormone of love, connection. When we're having a meal all together and you're interacting and you're feeling good, that is oxytocin. And that is the key hormone of labor and birth. And when a woman is birthing, she's peaking in oxytocin. And then she'll look at her baby and she'll fall in love with her baby. And all the hormones are working just as Mother Nature has provided as a template. We fall in love with our babies, we're touching, we're having the skin-to-skin experience, and our babies are having an experience of a gentle welcome into this world. So the hormones create the perfect milieu for these days, and it starts in labor. I also understood more and more about how the potential to support a woman's body physiologically and psychologically as a natural design it's almost like learning how to live in the woman's body. And that's why I came to see physiological birth as the life skill that we are not learning. So it learns how babies accept life and interact with life. Now back to my experience. When I birthed, I felt that connection of sacredness. I felt I could trust my body and I could trust the process. And I could extend this into my trust as me, as a mother, mothering my baby, which can be very overwhelming as a first-time mother. And I think that's why we see a lot of the difficulties in that yearning for that connection come up as anxiety and postpartum depression. So we are seeing that oxytocin is the hormone that helps us have empathy for ourselves and empathy for others. We're intentionally, however, in the medical system right now, we are seeing a crisis where we are losing physiological birth. Birth in hospitals is mechanistic, and the manners interfere with the normal process, and hence we're seeing more unnecessary interventions like inductions, some pain relief, episiotomies. Moms are being separated from their babies at birth. Hospitals universally in India separate their mothers and babies at birth. I could not find a hospital in Kolkata that does not do it. It is protocol. But the protocols are not evidence-based. Babies are being offered formula and sent home with no postpartum care or advice. So we're just stating and birthing individuals that are creating communities of fear-based dependence on an external system. It is taking away our compass in life, our inner knowing, our intuition, and most of all, our empathy. We increase oxytocin. Okay, we understand. I've gone through what oxytocin is. So we're intentionally robbing women of their own oxytocin and starting their experience as mothers feeling disconnected, full of doubt, and dependent on an external system to tell them if they are okay and how to do. And this carries on in our relationship with medicine throughout our lives, now primed at birth because our mothers are not being allowed to be heard or to go through a natural process. So we increase oxytocin by touch, yet we are touched cruelly and disconnected with our babies after birth, who maybe is given to us already wrapped in a blanket. It's not skin to skin. And they start, So Dr. Niels Bergman speaks a lot about skin to skin and the stress, the stress regulation it has for mothers and babies after birth, not only heart rates and thermoregulation, but actually cortisol. Compared to an incubator experience. The increase in postpartum anxiety and depression is telling us this, as well as the immense pressure for women to go back and bounce back to normal too quickly. They're traditional wisdoms and knowings that need to come back. They're not new. They are forgotten and they're dominated by the capitalism, consumerism approach to birth. And it's hurting us. We're seeing a lack of empathy in the world. We're witnessing ongoing abuse, violence, pain. If we understand and listen to the work of Gabor Mate, we know again and again that these primal beginning experiences are priming us for life. And we can actually not have such traumatic lives if we actually work with this process from the beginning. We can activate emotions and feelings and hormones and perspectives that allow us to talk gently, to talk kindly, to feel safe, to not act out of defense systems that we've had to learn because we feel so unworthy and so invalidated in this world, because our primal first milestone is of being allowed to exist. And how many mothers feel that when they're pregnant? Because there's so much fear, so much control over the system, the management of the pregnancy. And hopelessness. I'm seeing this day to day in women coming to me. We're not feeling safe in our bodies. We're yearning for connection. We are creating humans that are dependent on the same system to keep them alive while searching for connection in the wrong places. Processed foods, screens, addictive behaviors. We are keeping people distrusting their body by imprinting to a mother that she does not know what she is doing. It's your first child you don't know. I quote again. WHO states that a normal expected rate for cesarean is 25% globally. Our rate in South Africa, does anybody know? Yes, above 75%. In speaking to an obstetrician in America who had the graciousness to do home births, Dr. Stu Feischbein, I started looking out of South Africa for support because I realized I wasn't going to get support here. In the words of Stu Feischbein, he said, how do you get those kind of numbers? How do you get those kind of numbers? A lot of lies. We are at great risk of losing the skill of physiological birth, and this includes necessary interventions. It includes necessary interventions. I'm not narrow-minded. I fear what that means for our ability to connect with others as humans. The Sacred Model of Birth Academy introduces a sacred model of birth to all. And now there can be different tiers. And I thought I need to speak first to the doctors. But I had a very big wake-up call that doctors don't know what they don't know, especially when they think they know it. So I realized that's going to take a little bit more of work and time. Okay, we're also, that's not the only problem. There's a lot of red tape. There's restrictions are immense, and there's the overlying fear of litigation. And that's changed the face of obstetrics, possibly driving the high cesarean rates too. But the burnout and the power hunger and the disconnection we are forced to manage the extreme situations that don't get debriefed. And we were role modeled. I'm speaking from my experience. We role modeled lying and trauma. We role modeled it in medical school. So that's the doctors. That's going to take a bit of work. The midwives we're working with. My course has been running since 2021 for anyone. And it's going to be Sensitive Midwifery is an education forum in South Africa, and it's going to be teaching the sacred model of birth to midwives, registered midwives from next year. It has a lot of influence in Africa as well. So it's a African education forum. Okay, so that's the midwives. Midwives are also have to go through 3 years of training before they can practice as midwives, and they go through 3 years of nursing training, which is the same medical system, and immense numbers, high mortality, high morbidity, poverty, as well as limited resources. And I did my internship and training in the Western Cape. It's very different even in Gauteng and Mpumalanga. Much more poverty, much more numbers, much more preterm births, much more deaths and stillbirths. I'm associated with an NPO called 1000 Days of Grace, and they're working in Johannesburg, Rahima Musa Hospital. And so I'm seeing what the volunteers are dealing with every day, the amount of stillbirths. Back to nutrition, but that's another love. Okay, so that's the midwives. But I feel the focus needs to come down and include all women and come back to the market. We need to drive. The market needs to drive what is being provided. And we need to empower women with education, real information about birth and their body. And this needs to start in high school at biology lessons. Yeah. So we need to teach. I'm saying that because of all the different he, she, theys that's coming in now, which makes it a little bit more complicated. But you know what I mean. So there's that curriculum that has to come in. We need to teach a woman about her amazing fertility cycle, her innate connection with her body and nature, how our body is designed to birth and breastfeed. And there's something else we need to include in the high school curriculum, because I'm seeing lots of challenges around that, is pleasure. that a woman is designed to receive pleasure. So we need to teach a woman, so the sacred model of birth includes high school reproductive biology lessons, as well as education and support groups ongoing for mothers, midwives, and birth keepers. Birth keeper I use as a term for any woman who wants to support a woman during her birth. So doulas, massage therapists, nutrition, all these, everyone's is a birth keeper, keeping birth. And I don't think that is only the privilege of nurse-registered midwives. So I think everybody needs to know the sacred model of birth as a model of birth. There's different models of birth, but this is a model of birth that's not being taught and is most essential. So I started my mission. My mission started with postpartum, and I felt every village needs to have a postpartum carer in that village that is going to come and care for a mother after her birth. So that was my mission, and my first course before Sacred Model of Birth was designed actually for postpartum care. And that rolled out during COVID. I started writing and doing the courses. So over 100 people have been trained by me. Since then, I can see that women are going out to support and help other women themselves and also become a support for other women or create their own courses after mine. So it's a very beautiful field to watch grow internationally. I have a big vision and heart, but I'm going to be honest, I lack skills of business and wealth. So SIMBA is Sacred Model of Birth Academy, will be teaching local and online again from 2025. My circles are small and we work in our circles. I have immense hope that as women, each woman reclaims her inherent knowing and capacity around their birth and their body, and men come to support and bridge, that we can birth humans who feel innately supported, loved, and accepted, and this can change the world into a place that exudes empathy and gentle-heartedness, compassion, and care, to replace the cruel capitalistic approach we see today.